So can I ask Emma and Laura and Isabel and Brendan to come on up here? We're going to do a combined family and researcher panel, and I'm going to moderate this panel, and I'm going to ask some questions, but if we have time at the end, I'll open it up to questions and answers from the audience as well.
Is there an order in which we're speaking?
Well, we're just... Hold on. I think I'm going to ask you to say a few words. Okay? So, if you want to just hold on a second, let's get these guys arranged, and then I'll get you a seat over here someplace. You want your headset still?
They said so.
Sure. Whatever works for you. Can I reach it? Brendan, that one? Right here. Oh, good. Okay, so I'm going to ask everybody to introduce themselves briefly, and Brendan, I'm going to have you go last for introductions because I know you have a little bit more you want to say. Okay? So I'll start with Emma. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, my name is Emma Boswell. I am from the UK. I work for a charity called Sense. I am also the chair of the DBI Usher Network, and I've also set up a deaf cancer support group. I have Usher One myself, and I'm married with children, and I'm not sure if you need me to say anything else. Thank you.
That's perfect. Isabel?
So I'm Isabelle Odo. I'm a clinician scientist working in Paris at the Institut de la Vision and Hôpital 1520. That's it.
Are you married? Do you have kids? Where do you live?
I have kids. I live in the suburb of Paris. And yeah.
Klaus?
My name is still Klaus Möller, and I'm an ear, nose, and throat specialist and specialized in audiology, and I'm trying also to be a vision doctor, but they don't like it. I have 3 kids and 2 grandkids.
Hello, my name is... Can you hear me?
Is this microphone? Give it a shot. See if
Yeah. Okay. Hello? Maybe I use that?
No.
Okay, thank you. Hello? Okay. My name is Laura. I'm from Munich, and I am doing a fundraiser for a certain research project. So I'm actually building a bridge between the researchers and donors. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. And I do have Usher myself, Usher 2A. Yeah, that's why I'm here.
And Brendan, did you want to talk? You had to get a little bit more that you wanted to say, correct? Or do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'll just introduce myself. Hello everyone, my name is Brendan. I am 19 years old and I have Usher type 1F and have taken some action to spreading awareness and fundraising, which I'll raising awareness for it, which I will be talking about soon.
Okay, great. So one of the nice things about this panel, and the reason we asked for the researchers and some of the family to sit together, is I would like to ask you guys some questions, but I really kind of want the audience to see that you guys are really not all that much different. I would ask that Klaus and Isabella, if you can answer these questions on a more personal level as well as related to what you see in your careers, I would be interested in hearing that. So I'll start again with Emma. And Emma, my question to you is, what do you worry about on a daily basis?
Well, I worry about not being able to communicate with my children. Because I have Usher and I'm an Usher parent, I believe that's one of the biggest challenges I face every day. Don't get me wrong, I try to be positive, but that's probably my biggest worry.
Don't worry, I'll give you guys an opportunity to be positive. So Brendan, what do you worry about on a given day?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
What do you worry about on a normal day?
I actually try not to worry because I am confident that a cure will be coming out within my lifetime, and I just try to go about life every day like as if I don't even have Usher syndrome, while keeping an eye on the research, making sure that it's making progress, like looking out for that cure, which I know will come someday.
So Laura?
I am totally with you.
So you don't worry about anything on any given day. There's
No.
nothing that worries you. You're just carefree.
Yeah, I don't really worry because I think it's not leading me anywhere. So I think also focusing on the research is great, that it makes progress, but on the other side, I'm just living my life and doing the things that interest me a lot because I also have to say that I'm not as restricted as some of you are, so I can communicate and do everything like that. So I'm still very happy, actually, with it. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So Klaus?
I worry about that still a lot of people with Usher syndrome don't get the right treatment or rehabilitation. I worry about that it takes such a long time from research to a clinical practice. And I worry about that I have to retire.
You don't have to retire.
So you mentioned on the personal basis.
Yes.
So I try to not worry about anything, but I still do worry. I worry about not being able to do whatever I'm expected to do on a daily basis, and not worrying about missing a diagnosis, or saying something that I shouldn't say to a patient or to a colleague that will lead to other worrisome things.
That's a good answer. So my next question for you guys is, how do you feel when you meet someone new who has Usher syndrome?
What?
How do you feel when you meet someone new who also has Usher syndrome? Or in your case?
Well, I do try to relate to them in some ways, but for the most part, I try to motivate them to take action, to follow the research, to keep an eye out for the cure, spread awareness like what I'm doing.
Thank you. Emma, do you want to answer that question?
I always feel excited actually to meet new people because we are so varied. I like to see what other people have achieved in their life, and that actually empowers me.
I don't really know many people with Usher syndrome, actually. So
You do now.
when I do, but when I meet them, I think it's the same thing as always. When you meet people, you have some things in common and some things you don't. So that's just one more thing that you have in common. Yeah.
Excellent. You guys meet people with Usher syndrome all the time.
Yes, and when I meet a patient then with Usher syndrome, and we have cleared out the problems, then I try, because I usually have 3-hour sessions then, to start with, I usually try to also find all the strength and all the beauty in being a human being, and that people with Usher syndrome are as different as all my other patients. And that's so rewarding.
So when I meet a new patient with Usher syndrome, I try also to see the positive thing out of other things. And, after the testimony of Julia, I really always keep in mind that maybe this patient has an history of bad news, good news, or deception, and so on. So try to read with the patient this story, and also to give example of people who, despite everything, achieve great things, which I think it's always possible to give some positive input.
Excellent, thank you. So, Emma, I have another question for you. What about Usher syndrome frustrates you the most?
What frustrates me, I guess, is I meet a lot of people through my work that actually don't know anything about their own Usher. They haven't received the right diagnosis, the right information, the right support. They might have met a specialist doctor, like Julia said, or they might even have been misdiagnosed, and it's a missed opportunity. And actually, I come up across that a lot, and that's the biggest frustration.
Brendan, what about the disease frustrates you the most?
I think what frustrates me the most is just the way people treat me, either good or bad, like just people who worry about me too much. There's some people who think my vision is way worse than it actually is. Like, to be honest with you, it's really, really good right now. It's not supposed to get bad until much later, hopefully after the cure comes out. And people who assume that my vision is worse than it is try to grab me by the arm and guide me, but I don't like that. Like, I just think it's, in my eyes at least, it's rude for someone to grab me by the arm without notifying me beforehand. I see myself as a sighted person, and people who treat me as if I'm blind is just rude, like treating me like someone I'm not. And overall, just whenever people worry about me in general, like ask me if I need help getting anywhere, like need them to read something for me or something like that, just that really frustrates me. I really want to be independent. That's what it is.
I think I see it more from an inner part. What frustrates me would be that this is a progress, and that you always have this back information that you might go blind, and so you actually, I try to not live my life with this background information, but to live it just independently without thinking of it. But that's something that's frustrating when I'm thinking of it. Yeah.
I would say, like Brendan and Emma, the environment, we other frustrates me most. And in Sweden, it frustrates me a lot that we have authorities that have no clue and don't work together. In most of the countries we come from, we definitely have resources, but we haven't planned them together to make life easier and to include all people into the society. And since speech and vision, hearing and vision is so important for our social life, we should make it much, much easier to participate.
So I'm going to repeat a lot. Yeah. So one thing that also frustrates me is how ignorant some of my ophthalmologist colleagues are. And sometimes you receive patients, and patients are depressed because they were told that or children or parents from children that they were told that they should register to a special school and learn Braille and so on. So which is not needed in the first place in Usher syndrome. So it's always frustrating me to hear how ignorant some and sometimes very adamant, like you should do this and that some of my ophthalmologist colleagues are towards Usher syndrome. I'm also like Brandon, and what you mentioned is that any young children or adults need to be independent, and I do believe that Usher syndrome, a patient with Usher syndrome can be autonomous and independent and very happy, and sometimes the surrounding is anxious about that, and anxiety just preclude people to move forward. And
Good. Now, Kimberly had mentioned before that we need to be both balance the positive and negative. So I'm going to ask you a question that you'll probably find strange. But what about Usher syndrome makes you happiest? And we'll start with you, Emma.
What makes me happy about my Usher? I think the fact that I've managed to achieve so much and that I've just got on with things. I've backpacked on my own, I've done Operation Raleigh, I did Camp America, I managed to get a degree, and I've achieved so much, and that does make me happy, despite my Ushers, I guess.
Brendan, is there what makes you happiest about having Usher syndrome?
What makes me happy?
No one said this was going to be easy.
This is a difficult question. Is it possible you could come back to me?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
I find it very difficult too. Like, of course, I'm trying to like have a good view on it, but yeah, it's not so easy to find something that would be making me happy. But I think, for example, at night, my friends already stand there at the door and held their arm so that I can just grab it, and it's just a next to it thing. So I'm really happy to see that these people just see it as something that is just part of me, but is not a topic to talk about. And that makes me happy that there are people out there who can do it this way, friends, yeah.
Without you guys with Usher syndrome, I would still be a local ear, nose and throat doctor in Linköping, Sweden. You have made me so happy because I can travel around the world. I have met over probably 1,000 families with Usher syndrome. I work with researchers, clinicians. I can travel here without paying too much. It's fantastic. I love it.
I would say, like Laura, about what makes me happy about Usher syndrome is to realize how some patients achieve so much. And I have one of my patients, I forgot, he's Usher type 1, but he's not, he doesn't have Usher 1B, but another type of Usher. And I think he has 4 gold medal in judo at the Paralympics, and I'm so proud of him.
That's great. Brendan, have you come up with anything that makes you happy?
Yeah, I've got an answer. I know this
Worse.
what you would expect to hear from me, but I really don't think there is anything about Usher syndrome that has made me happy. So far, it's had only a negative impact on my life. I view it as a personal arch nemesis. I guess maybe that's a good thing to take out all of my anger on. Even so, I end up not harming others. But just, I really don't think there's anything about it that makes me happy. I am sorry to say that.
That's not a surprise. That was intended to not be an easy question. So I have actually, I know I've tried to ask you guys all the same question, but I have a
Mark,
variation.
Mark, back here.
Ah,
Sorry, I just wanted to comment on that also, if I may.
sure.
I don't have Usher, but I'm a father of someone who has Usher. And just this question that you asked, I would say there's not Usher in particular that would make you happy, but it's a challenge like many other challenges that you can have in life. And it does, and I'm fighting a little bit with my voice, as you can hear, but it does show that there are people around you, that there is good in this world. People, we've met so many friendly people after we got the diagnosis, and that I think many people, especially nowadays, when you see how bad things are going in the world, I think that's what shows that there is a lot of good in the world too, that people really fight for you, stand up for you, and want to be good to you and help you. So I think that's independent from Usher or other medical or other challenges, I think that's what was a benefit for us that Usher came into our family.
You can't see it, Bernd, but people are breaking out the tissues here. So, thank you, Bernd. That was a great answer. So I do have I'm going to ask slightly different questions of you guys, but they relate to the same sort of thing. So for Klaus and Isabel, what's the most important thing that patients or families with Usher syndrome can do to support your research outside of raising money?
I would say that the most important thing you can do is to organize yourself in different organizations, such as Usher Syndrome Coalition or other organizations, because deafblindness and Usher syndrome in the scientific world is a very small, and you are quite few when you're alone, which means that the funding for research can't compete with cancer, diabetes, or whatever it is. So if you go together, it will help the research tremendously. Without you, there will not be any research. And this meeting is a perfect example of this, where we actually have gathered probably all the main researchers in Usher syndrome in the world. And we were 150, 200 people. That is the content of researchers. And then we have some clinicians, of course, but that is the main thing you can do for us.
I totally agree. And also I think, being involved in Usher, you can also bring a lot to newly diagnosed Usher patients and families, because when we see them in a busy clinic, we try to take time. And this is, I always imagine that it's like a cold shower, and unfortunately our busy clinic are like that, so we can't review patients like the next day or the day after to answer questions and so on. And I think being families who also went through these type of things, you can really help when we can't continue to support the patient.
Thank you. So now for my non-researchers, I have two questions. We are reaching the point from a research perspective where we are going to need to start doing clinical trials. So my question for each of you first is, would you be willing to participate in a clinical trial? I know this is a short answer.
Would I give money to?
No, would you like to participate, or would you participate in a clinical trial?
That seemed so far away, so I didn't really think about it so far, but I think that it depends, because I need to have trust in the project and in the trial. And I would also want to know the risks that I'm taking. But if it's promising, then I wouldn't see a reason why I shouldn't do it. Yeah.
Brendan, would you be willing to participate in a clinical trial?
Good question. I might want to wait until I'm older and until the research has progressed further, but I think if the trial sounds like it will work and like I feel like I could only benefit from it, like if there's no if there aren't any nasty side effects, I would be happy to participate in a clinical trial.
And Emma?
That would be a very, very big decision to make. And I guess the same as everybody else has said, you'd have to weigh up the risks, because at the moment my vision isn't too bad. And would I be willing to risk affecting it or changing it in some way? So I guess I can't give you a definitive answer. I'd have to weigh it all up and then give my answer.
So I want to make a comment, and then I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. Laura had mentioned earlier about that she'd have to trust that she knew what was happening and trust the people that were involved. And that is a big reason why we do these types of events. And that's why we asked Klaus and Isabel to be here with the patients, because we want you to know the researchers. We want you to know that you can trust the researchers, and the only way you're going to do that is if you get to meet them and you get to treat and see them as human beings and know that they care about you as an individual. And that is not always going to be the case with every researcher. So it's important that you have the opportunity to meet them and know them personally, and hopefully know them for a lot of years. I have known these guys for probably 10 years now, and I completely trust them. But that's in part because I've known them for 10 years. So it takes time to develop that sort of relationship where you have that trust, which is why we try and do these types of events. Because that leads me to my follow-up question for you guys. The first phase of clinical trials is a safety trial. And in most cases, the intention of the safety trial is not to improve your condition. It's to test and see if it is dangerous. So this is my follow-up question to you. Would you be willing to participate in a clinical trial if you knew there would likely be no benefit for you, but that it could benefit the community in the future?
Are you asking me? Do you already have an answer? I don't. I don't yet.
Would you like to hear my answer? As I
Sorry?
might make it a little bit more comfortable for you guys.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't. I would not be willing to be involved in the work and the pain that may potentially go along with a clinical trial if it wasn't going to help me. But there are going to have to be people out here that do that if we're going to find treatments. And so if the answer is no, that's perfectly fine, because that's going to be most people's answer.
I think my answer would be no, because, you know, you already have this disease and you've already had so many difficulties that you had to manage. And if you knew there would only be more difficulties, probably, and I wouldn't have any benefit from it, then I would probably say no because of that, because I'm already having to struggle with it, and I don't want to have more struggle just so, yeah.
Brendan, what do you think?
Well, for me, I'm more concerned about efficacy than safety. Like, safety is, well, obviously it's relevant, but in the long run, for me, it's partially irrelevant. Like, if I want to do a clinical trial, I want to at least wait until the safety part has been cleared before moving into efficacy. So I probably would not want to do one of those safety trials.
Emma, what do you think?
Well, I guess I feel the same as everybody else. I don't know if I would take the risk in actually damaging the vision that I do have, and it would be a family decision as well, because, you know, I have young children, and on the back of that, I think I would be reluctant.
Okay, thank you. So I asked that question because I want you to realize that it's great we're reaching this point where we are going to make it to clinical trials. It's going to be hard for all of us. There's going to be some really difficult decisions for people to make to get there. And some people are going to have to, you know, sacrifice and be willing to do something that I don't think I would be willing to do. And I think it's important for us as a community to realize that people that do that are real heroes to us, because they're willing to do something to help the community that isn't going to help them directly. So we have a couple more minutes. I was wondering if you guys have any questions. Anybody out there have a question they'd like to ask anybody on the panel or the panel in general? Any hands? No one? Oh, we have a hand over here.
Hello. Is there an international patient register existing where you can register yourself and your mutation you have? Because there is one in Germany, but maybe it's also interesting for the whole world.
Well, that's an easy answer. Nancy, how'd you like to stand up? So that's Nancy O'Donnell over there, and she runs the Usher Syndrome Coalition International Registry for people with Usher syndrome. And so if you go and find Nancy after the symposium, she'll be happy to get you registered. And there's actually a German page on the registry. Add anything, Nancy?
That's perfect. Come on over. I have my laptop.
Anybody else have any other questions they would like to ask?
Hi, I am Ann Schuler. I'm a parent of 4 kids, 2 with type 1B. And as a mom, I am wondering if the people on the panel who are patients could speak about things that their parents did that they found supportive and maybe things that were not helpful, so that I can replicate or not replicate. And then if the researchers could maybe talk about effective parenting that they've seen with their patients and families. You know, even talking to our young children about this diagnosis and teaching them a healthy way to cope with whatever feelings they might have as things change. I think that for me is my greatest need. Watching my children go through this is, how do I be a support and not hover too much? And really, you know, I don't know, make sure that they can become the people that they are intended to be, and to not let this diagnosis be something that completely defines them.
Good question. Emma, would you like to answer that first?
My mum and dad are divorced, but I have a set of step-parents. My mum knew I had Usher at 7, but didn't actually tell me until I was 18. It's actually when I was going to Operation Raleigh, and I started scuba diving, and I realised that my balance was very bad, and I asked my mum about this and said, what's wrong with my vision, what's wrong with my balance? And that's when she sat me down. My older sister also has Usher, and my brother doesn't. She sat all of us down and told us that me and my sister had Usher. But after that point, I know it was rather late, my mum actually encouraged me and my sister to be very independent. My dad, on the other hand, was very, very different. He didn't want me to go travelling, to do Camp America. He didn't want me to do lots of the things that I wanted to do. And I actually think it's because I don't communicate that well with him. I lived with my mum, I grew up with her, and I communicate with her amazingly. And actually, the one thing I do wish is that both of my parents could sign, because I don't know what my vision is going to be like in the future. and I might need to use hands-on signing, and that's why I've taught both of my children to sign, because I want to be able to communicate with them for the rest of my life. And so that's probably the biggest thing. I wish my mum and dad had learnt sign language. I'm very open with my children as well, so I would say that's definitely a bonus, a plus.
So Brendan, do you want to answer that question?
Sorry, what was the question?
So the question was, what things have your parents done that have worked well, and what have they done that has not worked well? And your dad will cover his ears.
Sorry, what was that?
So, do you have any advice for parents as to what they could do to make it easier for kids with Usher syndrome?
Definitely being positive from the start, like saying having Usher syndrome won't stop you from doing all the things that you like doing right now. That obviously helped me. I think just like as soon as they're old enough to understand what's going on with all this research, like maybe you could tell them about it, like, and be positive about it, like say we're working towards a cure and we're hoping to have it out in the next few decades, and like just being positive, telling them that regardless of how bad this seems, they can still live out their normal lives and be happy.
I agree with you. And also, I think it's very important to be honest. For example, my mom, she told me directly what I have, but she was not very enthusiastic about it, of course, but she just told me, like, yeah, you have this disease called Usher syndrome. And I was like, okay, and then that was it. And so, yeah, we were very honest about it. That was very important. And but in the end, I think it's important that the parents listen to the child when it says something, but don't really do something more when it doesn't say something. Because I think that's I would find it restricting if my parents would contact me and be like, yeah, what is it like for you, or things like that, because this would make me feel being different, and I would have a problem with that. So what my parents did right was not doing too much. Yeah.
My experience is that I have seen now over 100 children who now have grown up, and they constantly say to me that those that comes out the best are those where, as you said, where the parents told them very early about the problems that they might face, and also, especially when you're a young, very young kid, tell them about, if you have Usher type 1, that yes, you are a little bit more clumsy, you can't do everything, but that's just because you're deaf in your balance organs, so that they don't hear that from others, and then educate all the other caregivers in the preschool, etc. Because many children will get very stupid comments from ignorant people.
Is there anything to add, Isabel?
Yeah, so I can only speak also from my experience. First, I think as parents you need to trust your children. Any children, not only your children with Usher 1B, that they will going to be fine. And second, I must admit, except of course when you do an ERG on the 6 months old, but when I see patients with children with Usher syndrome, I tend to see them with their parents and try to explain in a simple way why they came, because performing an ERG is not something easy, and try to explain them. You don't see very well maybe at night, and so to explain them why they don't see very well, but very simply, because maybe I'm wrong, but I do think that maybe not saying things can create false anxiety, and just saying, you know, we understand why you don't see well at night, and you're going to have a flashlight, and everything will be okay. So I do think being honest and rationalizing things help a lot, rather than hiding things. And then, because the kids, you know, they understand quite a lot, I think. So.
Can I add something? I think the diagnosis affects, this is the first time you actually have to do something with the disease, and I think it's very important to think about how you tell your child. So I think it's very important to just say it without any emotions, so that the child can like put it in the right order, because I think if you would already tell the child with like a crying face, then it's probably not the best thing for the child, because it thinks, oh, my life is over, and this is probably going to restrict me so much, and thinking bad about it. So I think that would be bad. Yeah.
Great, thank you guys. So we've kind of gone over our time, but I know, Brendan, I know you wanted to say a few words. Do you have
I had a speech that I wanted to give.
Sure, do you have time to give it? Do you have it with you? Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Hit it, kid.
All right. So you heard a fair amount about me earlier when I was answering those questions, but I think it's time I told you my story to really inspire people to take action. So once again, you know, my name's Brendan Creamer. I'm 19 years old. I'm currently in college. I go to Lewis and Clark in Portland. I'm from Palo Alto and in California. And over the years, over these past few years, I've taken some action to raising awareness for Usher syndrome in my community. So I'm going to speak about that. So with that, here I go. Dear fellow community members, dear fellow community members with Usher families and researchers, imagine for a moment that you are a child who has recently been diagnosed. That you are a child who has been recently diagnosed with Usher syndrome. You are probably between 9 and 15 years of age, living a pretty normal life so far. You go to school, hang out with friends, play with toys, and have fun. You are simply cruising through life. Nothing will go wrong, right? Then, one day, completely out of the blue, your parents tell you that you have Usher syndrome and that your eyes do not work as well as you believe they do. In that moment, you feel like your whole life was a lie. You are devastated. You isolate yourself from your friends. You give up all of your big life goals, fearing that there's no way out of this dark future that looms ahead. Well, I'll tell you this. I am not that kind of person. Instead, I am the person who, upon realization, does not see Usher syndrome as a threat. I am the kind of person who takes action, the person who reaches out, who is motivated, who is resilient, who knows that there is some solution out there regardless of how awful the situation seems. Let me tell you a story of how I found out that I had Usher syndrome, stayed motivated, and eventually won several victories in the war against this dreadful disease. I was diagnosed when I was very little, but my parents withheld the truth from me until I was 10. For the next 4.5 years, I dismissed it. Not denied, dismissed, thinking it was not going to be an issue at all because I was pretty happy with the way things were going for me at the time. In the middle of 9th grade, however, I became more aware. I was upset with the intense accommodations I was receiving in school at the time because I had grown out of many of them. At the same time, I learned about biotechnology in my biology class and had just learned about genetic mutations. It was in that moment when I realized that all of my current problems could be traced back to a single mutation in my DNA. Immediately after that, I decided to pursue biotechnology as a career whilst swearing a personal oath to cure Usher syndrome before I lost too much vision. In the meantime, I would raise money for the research that was currently going on in order to give as much support as I could. During my sophomore year, I began my own personal war against Usher syndrome, working together with this organization called the Bryant Street Garage Fund, now renamed Think Fund, an organization in Palo Alto, California, where I'm from, that helps teens run programs. I got together a group of people and planned an open mic talent show event where all of the proceeds went to Usher syndrome research and raised over $700 for Ed Stone's research at the University of Iowa. Additionally, I was able to spread awareness to the community. We named our group Science for Sight and continued to build more fundraisers the following year when I was 16. Unfortunately, I had to shut down the club at the end of the year because we weren't having as much success as before, and the rest of my group lost interest in the project. But I did not give up hope. During that time, I was getting more and more involved in another organization in my Jewish youth group, BBYO. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. It's pretty popular. It's a great organization. And anyways, I was getting pretty involved in it at the time and saw another opportunity. At the start of each semester, the chapter, the division of my youth group that I was part of would choose a new stand-up cause, that is a Jewish organization that we would spend the entire term raising money for. Since Usher syndrome type 1F, the kind that I have, is fairly common in Ashkenazi Jews, I decided that would be a perfect idea for a stand-up cause. Together with my chapter's Aleph Shaliach, or Vice President of Judaism and Community Service, we made Usher syndrome our stand-up cause. The guys in my chapter, which I would like to acknowledge, my chapter was called Simon Weisenthal, AZA number 2524 of the region, Central Region West, number 45 of the International of the Aleph Zadik Aleph of BBYO, this great organization that parents, if you have a kid who has Usher syndrome, if you guys are Jewish, please try to get that kid into BBYO. That would be a great way for them to raise money and awareness. Anyways, the guys in my chapter worked tirelessly throughout the winter 2017 term, the second half of my senior year, to raise money for the cause. We created a GoFundMe page, and after hosting a call-a-thon towards the end of the term, raised almost about $2,000 for Usher syndrome. My senior prom and graduation occurred soon afterwards, so it felt like a real victory to me. Right around that time, I heard that the mouse model for type 1F had finally been produced, which only further strengthened that victorious feeling. Nowadays, I am in college, simply working my way towards a degree in biotechnology where I can tackle this disease head-on, but I can't do it alone. I will need your help. So with that, I have one final message for all of you. To the people close in age to me with Usher syndrome, high school kids, college students, young adults, teenagers, you have the power to change things. You have the ability to reach out to your community, to spread awareness, and to raise money. You have that choice to either give up and assume everything is hopeless, or to choose to take action and not only help yourself, but others around you as well. You have that potential inside you to become a game changer, one who motivates and inspires those around them in ways never seen before. You have that potential to do amazing things. To the families, especially to those of very young children, you may not see this, but your child has the potential to do great things. Your children has the potential to become famous, almost as if they were the next Albert Einstein or John F. Kennedy. If they are older, now is the time to start encouraging them. If they are toddler age, simply encourage them when they are older. And also, if they are Jewish, encourage them to join BBYO. If they are not Jewish, encourage them to join community service groups to, like at their school or in their community, to take action. Spread the message of how I took action instead of giving up in order to help others as well as myself. Inspire them to make their own impact on the world. Motivate them to be game changers, to join me in my quest to cure Usher syndrome. To the researchers, thank you for all of your hard work you have done so far, and I wish you the best of luck continuing the study. To the families, thank you for supporting your children as much as you have, and I hope you continue to support them further. To those with Usher, do not give up. You have that power to change things. Use that to your advantage. Fellow community members, families, and researchers, let's eradicate this disease. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. It's a good note to end on.